Hello, everybody. So today I want to talk about an album that is released in the past week, as of 2/8/2022. That's when I'm filming this right now. Um, so there's actually been a lot of really great records that came out this past week. It's definitely going to go down as one of the most significant weeks of the year. Um, a lot of releases. A lot of releases that I'm interested in listening to. But you know what? Not every release that I'm interested in listening to am I gonna cover and have things to say. A lot of the times it's the stuff that I don't like completely that I have more to say about. Like stuff with criticism alongside compliments. Because analysis is not always based on good or bad. A lot of the more interesting stuff is somewhere in the middle. But yeah, before I get to what I want to talk about today, just wanted to say, sorry, it's been a little while since a video, but I had a whole 50-minute long video, and I'm an idiot, and it's gone. So I've been a little discouraged to record something new, but I'm planning on refilming that. And today, I listened to the album we're going to talk about today, and another one that released in this past week that I really thought I had a lot to say about. So that other album I'm gonna cover hopefully soon too. Hopefully in the next week. Um, but yeah, so that the album I'm gonna be talking about is the newest album from an artist I'm quite a fan of, Mitski. Laurel Hell. That's her newest album. Came out last Friday. I'm gonna give you a little bit of preamble about Mitski and what I know about her. So she is a 2010s artist. She's been around. She's been pretty popular in indie circles for the majority of the 2010s. Her last record, Nobody, was incredibly popular. It might have been her commercial peak. She got a lot of attention from Pitchfork and indie circles. And her album before that, too, Puberty 2, it was another one that was really critically acclaimed. Now, personally, I haven't heard outside of that, but I really would like to. I'm definitely going to soon, because she's an artist that I really started to get into last year. I listened to both those records. Sorry, not Nobody. It's Be the Cowboy. I always accidentally call it Nobody because there's a track on there called Nobody, um, that I really enjoy. But I will say, both of those albums are really great, and they didn't click with me until the past couple months. When I initially listened to Be the Cowboy, I really didn't like it very much. I thought it was short and it just didn't really gravitate. Nothing really stuck with me. And I felt the same way about Nobody too. Now, I will say, I don't know why I didn't like them. Maybe my tastes have changed because when I went back to listen to them this year, or sorry, last year, um, they really clicked. Nobody, or not Nobody. Be the Cowboy was like this really interesting, like short, very cleanly produced pop album, with some really beautiful vocals, as well as some really tight songwriting. And Puberty 2, I liked even more. It kind of captured this like indie rock vibe. I think I talked about before my love of fuzz, or maybe that was in the Lost video. Um, but I love fuzzy rock music. Something about it really grabs me. And there's a lot of really fuzzy rock music on Puberty 2. Some great guitars, and again, her vocals, while completely different than that of Be the Cowboy, really great, really more aggressive, more rock sounding. So even just listening to those two records, she has an incredible range. Um, so I was excited for this record. The only single I heard from this album was the track "Looking for the Knife," which came out, I believe, a couple months ago. Um, Now, that track in particular sounds a lot like Be the Cowboy, I would say. The music video has a lot of like motifs of her passing on the Be the Cowboy era into a new era. And I'll say when that track came out, I liked it, but I don't really think I really listened to the lyrics much until recently. Because for those of you who don't know, Mitski does not want to be making music anymore. She really is tired of music. There's been a lot of reports about her not even wanting to make this album, and that she's just doing it to get out of her recording contract, which is interesting. Doesn't necessarily bode well for the music she's going to release, honestly. It's very rare, I would say, where a lack of interest creates better art. I would say I don't know of any case where that's ever happened. Um, but I still want to give this record a chance. And I will say, I like to clarify this no matter what album I'm talking about, but my opinion is not final. This is time stamped. Read the date that this released. These are my thoughts of that date, as of that date. I could feel completely different in a couple months, a year. Um, but I feel like that's how it works for everybody, and that's okay. There's no reason to hide that and say this is an objective score. This is what my thoughts culminate, because my thoughts on music are never ending. As I keep listening to it, um, it grows. This is a at least that's my perspective. That's why I think it's kind of hard to. You shouldn't take scores and reviews seriously, as far as objectivity. It's just someone's experience with the record and what it means to them. Yeah, but that's my little rant. But let's get back to the album. I don't think I even mentioned the name of the album yet, but it's called Laurel Hell. I really like that title. It's got a pretty bittersweet imagery, and I would say the cover. A lot of people don't really like the cover. I think it's pretty nice. I like the cover. But how about the music? So I mentioned earlier the track "Working for the Knife," which is definitely one of the best tracks on this album, and a great track to open up like the dialogue that this album is kind of hoping to open up. Um, because as I mentioned earlier, Mitski does not want to be making music anymore, it seems, and she's writing music about that. I can't say I've ever listened to a record um, about a musician not wanting to play music anymore, which is interesting. That's part of the reason why I wanted to do this video. I will say overall, I like the record. I don't think it's fantastic. It definitely feels uninspired in a lot of ways, but it's really interesting to think that that uninspired feel is not necessarily intentional, but it's purposeful. I think it's really interesting to consider um, the purpose and the importance that plays on making music, because I think it's all about buying into the image and the story that a musician's trying to sell. So is it necessarily bad to feel uninspired if you are uninspired? I don't know. It might just come down to simply it's not fun to listen to uninspired music, which I would understand. I would understand your if you think that. But I do think there's something interesting to get out of Mitski's uninspired qualities on this album. Let's talk about the track "Working for the Knife," the first single, where she gets into very vivid details about her working for the knife. That is what she's considering her music career at this point. She has lyrics talking about how she thought she'd be done at 20, and now she's 29 and doesn't know. And honestly, I find these lyrics really depressing, and they really kind of ring true. Because this really is a perspective I don't think I've heard much in music. Most musicians are struggling so much to get the attention that they're far beyond the point of thinking whether or not this is something that makes them happy. And there's a whole can of worms you could open thinking about that and what that means. But Mitski's at this point, she's talking about how she has success. She's had a decade full of success. She's made it. A lot of people talk about making it and the importance of making it. And she's made it and she's unhappy, she's saying. She calls it working for the knife. Now, it's not exactly clear if it's the music industry or music itself. But I'll say, based on my interpretation, it seems like both. And that track, "Working for the Knife," musically sounds very like "Be the Cowboy." I would say it's like this smooth pop track, um, but the lyrics add a whole nother dimension to what this album is trying to say. Now, I do want to say that based on lyrics of this album, I wouldn't say it's necessarily all about her relationship with the music industry. There are definitely songs here that are harder to kind of mold into fitting into that theme, because there are a lot of tracks that feel like romantic breakup, distress over romantic feelings, which is also really interesting. I do think she has a lot of interesting stuff to say on this topic. She's a great lyricist. She's a great writer. So, and even on the last album, she talked about a lot of heartbreak. She can achieve something interesting with focusing on that. But I do think these two storylines tell a coherent story. I do think these two subjects tell a coherent story about Mitski's life, going into this album and what she's dealing with. She's dealing with two different kinds of heartbreak. In a way, she's dealing with a breakup as far as romantic, and a breakup as far as her self. She's breaking up with an image that she's had her whole life. Now, another track I wanted to talk about that kind of sees these two ideas melding is the ninth track, "Should Have Been Me." Now, these lyrics I find really interesting. I'm looking on Genius right now, and the annotator seems to believe that these lyrics are about the romantic breakup, which I could definitely see. But I actually think this track's I think this track actually plays through both storylines. Well, I went through my list of friends and found I had no one to tell of the overwhelming clean feeling, strange serenity. When I saw that girl look just like me, and it broke my heart the lengths you went to hold me, to get to me. 'Cause I haven't given you what you needed. You wanted me but couldn't reach me. So you went into your memory, relieved all the ways you'd still want me. I haven't given you what you needed. Bleh. I haven't given you what you need. You wanted me but couldn't reach me. I'm sorry, it should have been me. Now, I will say the hook seems to lend more to a romantic relationship, and kind of like the issue she's going through, with feeling her self-worth in the face of that. But I really find the opening verse interesting, where she's talking about how this is something that's been a part of her. She's felt like this relationship has been a part of her and defined her whole life. I mean, that could apply to her relationship with music. I'm not an expert on Mitski's history, but I've seen footage of her singing and playing guitar and piano. I'm not sure actually if it's guitar and piano, but she's been experiencing music her whole life. I know she went to a music college, and I can imagine that this is something she's been working towards. I can imagine this is something she's been working for her entire life, and she's had it for a while now, and she's not happy. It's a really interesting subject. What do you do? How do you how do you find something to find solace in if your means of like expressing yourself is what you're trying to get away from? I don't know. That's a terrible thing to kind of have to accept. And the funny thing is, listening to this album, it kind of feels bad because of that. It feels like you're listening to something you're not supposed to be listening to. It feels corrupted. Not in the same way you would listen to something that sounds like evil, like a Swans record or something like that. Because it's still a pop record. It's still easy on the ears. As far as the sound goes, I would say it's similar to her last record, with some synth pop vibes. A lot of like 80s Heartland rock vibes. Definitely a Bruce Springsteen vibe on a lot of the tracks here. But it actually reminds me a lot of Bruce Springsteen, kind of this pop shine on the outside, covering like a really like depressed, hollow interior, and it's really interesting to see Mitski kind of going through that. If this is her final record, it's extremely depressing. It's an extremely depressing final final record, I would say. Another track I want to talk about is the track Love Me More, which also has lyrics that resemble two different stories, her relationship with music and a romantic relationship. So the opening lyrics here, she talks about, if I keep myself at home, I won't make the same mistakes that I made for 15 years. Now, I don't know personally how long she's been in a relationship. Um, but either way, that is a powerful line. Um, to feel like afraid of going outside because everything is scary. That's kind of what she's talking about here. Not feeling comfortable in your own skin. Like, that's what she's experiencing. Loss of self. And that's something that can come from all different kinds of reasons. And a lot of times it comes from multiple reasons at the same time. So those lyrics definitely hit hard, I would say. On her second verse, she says, how do other people live? I wonder how they keep it up. When today is finally done, there's another day to come, then another day to come, then another day to come back to mine. We'll pretend it ends tomorrow. Opens the pre-chorus and the chorus. I need you to love me more, love me more. This part is also extremely powerful to me, I would say. And I think it shows exactly what I'm talking about, how these two stories are supposed to interact with each other. The hook is about, I need you to love me more, as if she's talking to a person, as if that's the way to fix. And I would say that's a common sentiment. A track I'm thinking of that does a similar thing is the track by Outkast. Has these two different sides. The lyrics in the verses are about this like failing relationship, and how the hook is just trying to dance it away, forget it with pop. And I think Mitski's doing a similar thing here, where she's chanting out like "love me more," embrace love. I mean, in a lot of ways, love is a cliche in music. It is. It is. I would think quite a lot of music is consumed by feelings of love, and that's okay. But even in the face of that, I can understand maybe it's part of the reason why she feels so consumed and tired of music. Maybe it just feels like she's emotionally she's abusing her own emotions to make music. I don't know. Maybe that's all just conjecture. It probably is. But I can say that the lyrics on the second verse about another day to come and how it kind of feels hopeless, it's definitely something I can relate to. And this as I was listening to the track earlier, it definitely hit. You know, because I can definitely relate with this idea of like existential despair. Something I really want to get to do on this channel is kind of talk about like how music relates with me in my life. I think that's something that's really valuable, and that a review doesn't necessarily have to be about the music solely. I would like to share my perspective on what I find in music too. And I will say, in my current state of life, this is definitely an album that I resonate with. I'm currently a senior in college, trying to decide what I want to do with my life, and it's a hard decision. And there's definitely a lot of pressure to think that you need to have everything figured out, and that's what being an adult is like. So you know, it didn't really hit when I first heard "Working for the Night," but on this listen, when this album released, and I was thinking about kind of that existential despair that's all over this record. Well, in a way, maybe it was comforting to think that there is someone who is older than me, not that much older than me, but older than me, who found success. You know, there's so many musicians, so many people who do so many different things that fail. And by that I mean they don't find commercial success. Not that they failed doing it. But those two things kind of get inflated, you know? The idea of being successful doesn't always make you happy. That's something that's kind of hard to come to terms with. And yeah, I mean, the lyrics on this this outro and on the hook that repeats, love me more, love enough to drown it out, drown me out. I think a lot of times for creative people, you kind of put everything into your craft, what you can express yourself through, because that's what you found gives you satisfaction in life. Um, and sometimes you put so much into that it is your life, and I think that's what a lot of people seek. That's why you become a professional musician or a professional writer or a professional anything, right? Because you love it and you think you're really good at it and you think you have something to say. But I think on this album, Mitski's kind of taken a stance of like she's past that point. She's past that point and has come to a full realization of this not making her happy. Yeah, that's really what I wanted to talk about with this album. Overall, it is a good record. It's one I'm going to give a lot more listens to because I think there's more for me to get out of it. Um, but it's sad. It's sad that it's sad in one aspect. This is her last album, but it's even more sad that she doesn't find any joy out of making music anymore. That's the real tragedy. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm going to try to do some more. And I'm also going to try to re-record the one that I lost. Because I do think it was pretty good. So at some point soon, I'm going to do that. It was just a long one. So it's going to take some energy to do. But hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you check out the album that we talked about once again at the Laurel Hell by Mitski. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Have a nice day. I'll see you guys next time.